with calls, well, let me not say calls, in part of the 8-point agenda, or agreement, as it were, was that the governor will submit the 2024 budget to the 32. That includes the 26 or 27, whose legitimacy is in court. And where does that leave Rivers State in the scheme of things? Are we moving forward, or we are stalemate?
Well, one of the points in that resolution was that parties will withdraw their suits. And this suit filed at the Federal High Court was initiated by the 27. So I wonder why they haven't withdrawn that suit, if in the spirit of that resolution. They ought to have shown fit, if they really believe in that resolution itself, that is what it is. They ought to have shown us by example that they are committed to keeping that resolution by first withdrawing that suit. Meaning that they know the implication of withdrawing that suit. Withdrawing that suit would mean that, look, their status has been sealed, their fate has been sealed. Because that's what they went to court to determine their status as whether they are still members of the House of Assembly or not. That issue has not been resolved. Now, don't also forget that their seats have officially been declared vacant.
Right.
By the present Speaker of the House of Assembly. That position remains the law until the court sets it aside. So that's what the status quo is. The status quo does not mean they are going back to the House of Assembly. The status quo is that, look, our seats have been declared vacant by the House of Assembly. We are battling to get our seats. We use the word embattle. We are battling to get our seats back. That's why we are in court. So the status quo remains at that level until the court determines one way or the other. And I can tell you that the issue of resubmission of the budget to the State House of Assembly is a constitutional anathema. It is something that is not doable in law. And I don't see the governor of the state towing that path of encouraging that kind of massive constitutional breach, because it's beyond Rivers State.
Let's take a quick look at some of the developing issues from this Rivers State crisis. One, like you said, it was at the eve of relaunching of Kelsey Harrison, the Garrison hospital and the Shanghai farm and all of those things, that the INEC secondary schools and all of that the whole thing was blown out of proportion. If meeting, remember, for this was had at about 8th of December, that was when they had this meeting of the 8-point directive was given. And on the 15th of that December, the 26 lawmakers had to go to court to say our seats are not vacant. While Fubara was expected to hold down his own part of the bargain, you went to court to hold back yours. First thing they did was they withdrawn the impeachment process. Second thing they did was they went to court, I think that same Thursday, that same week. Fubara's lawyer said he doesn't have a directive from his clients to withdraw the matter. Case, yes. And these people looking at that had to go back to court to protect themselves. The president's intervention was a major part of the drama that unfolded in two major states. Unfortunately, one has become clear that this man was literally sick and at a terminal stage with prostate cancer, whom he passed on 2 days ago. You bring that back to his intervention in Rivers State. This intervention and all that has come to the fore, because clearly Fubara doesn't seem to be yielding. He sounds like he is, but he's not yielding. There are several court cases against him and the president that is against yielding to those rules. We now come back to the president's issue on those states. The people said, the constitution said, Aiyedatiwa should be the governor. The president jettisoned what the constitution said and did what he wanted. He finally kept him as acting governor. And finally, the law has taken its place, nature and the law. But the concern we have with President Tinubu's intervention in all of this is the people he seemed to be calling to Aso Rock to intervene, as our Rivers elders will say, you interfered. We asked for intervention and you interfered. is it now necessary, seeing that in Rivers State particularly, the governor, it sounds like he is yielding, but he's not. The Yeson Wike and his lawmakers sounds like they are yielding, but they are not from this court case. Is it not necessary for the president to continue to interfere, like the Rivers elders have said? We don't need you to interfere. If you cannot intervene, step aside. Is it not necessary for him to continue to do this?
The problem with the presidential intervention is not that in and of itself it's a bad idea. I think any responsible president seeing that there's a build-up of events in any part of the country that could escalate into an open crisis has a responsibility to intervene. But that intervention has to be within the ambit of constitutionality. The problem here is that what the president has done in Rivers, as in the case of Ondo, was clearly at variance with the spirit of the Constitution, and that's why people are complaining. So, for example, in Ondo, you're saying that a deputy governor should sign an undated resignation letter as some kind of insurance that he wouldn't step out of the bounds of the terms of an agreement that clearly enshackled him. So, I mean, I wonder how that sits with the Constitution. It seems to me that the president is not availing himself of the wealth of legal expertise around him. His chief of staff is a lawyer. His attorney general is one of the best of the the best, most senior and best members of the bar. Why is he not availing himself of or is it that he discards the advice, or perhaps for some reasons they give him the kind of advice that he wants to hear? I don't get it. So it gives me reasons to worry. There is another crisis brewing in Benue, and the faction has called for the president to intervene. That's the faction supposedly led by the president's, the secretary to the government of the federation.
Actually, yeah,
so we are seeing Rivers 2.0 about to take place in Benue. So my fear, as I expressed in my last appearance here, is that perhaps without knowing it, we are gradually setting ourselves up for what I have called an imperial presidency.
Exactly.
A president that has absolutely no limits at all.
I was just going to ask you that right now. Are we looking at, I've used the word mafia state, but someone said maybe that's an extreme thing to say right now, but jettisoning the Constitution of Nigeria, deciding what you want that is pleasing to you.
You know, it's quite unfortunate that Tinubu was one of those people who fought to entrench present democratic dispensation when he was in Nadeko. Fighting alongside.
Is he still not a member?
Well,
Nadeko doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, Nigeria.
No, it exists. It exists
in the US.
Yes, it exists. They are one of the groups in was it US?
Yes, US
came up last year and disclaimed Tinubu. You know.
But he hasn't said he's not a member.
He hasn't said he's not a member. But the truth is that we're antecedents. I'm just looking at the path of history, the role he played during the June 12 crisis, and how he deployed resources and he put himself, his life, his businesses on the line to entrench the present democratic era which we find ourselves. And it's quite ironic that this same man is the one who we are talking about like this. It's quite unfortunate.